I consider myself a romantic, and while that may occasionally include flowers and chocolate, what that really means is that I believe there is a force, a connection on a societal level that we can call love. It can make people do incredible things, is almost impossible to measure, and yet we all recognize it when we see it. But unlike the majority of romantic films, especially the cash and grab ones that come out around this time of year, I do not believe that love is inherently a force for good. Love can leave us feeling isolated and alone. Love can trap us in situations that to an outsider seem totally escapable. Love can leave us scarred for life or squandering our potential. But this isn't a damnation of love either. Every single medium of art has attempted to capture the wonder, or we could even say rapture, of love. Love that is transient, illusory and strange, and even a cursory look over history or literature or poetry or music show that love has been a burning issue for mankind as long as we've been keeping count. The Greeks, with their different categories of love, still captured the sense in the image of the powerful, mercurial, unfaithful and occasionally fickle Aphrodite. During the age of chivalry, love was about self-sacrifice and loving from a distance. Even as recently as our grandparents' generation, people were told to learn to love a partner or a spouse. In direct conflicts with the current era when each of us seek out a spark to kick off any commitment. However, I would argue that there's one constant connecting each era to another. Despite the fact that we so often hail the wonder and beauty of love, its real power comes from its pain. To love is to open yourself up and to leave yourself exposed. That's why when I think of romantic films, I think of Blue Valentine, A Single Man, or Call Me By Your Name. Not only are these films more honest about the potential turmoil that comes with love, it's this very reason that they're so beautiful. Love is a contradiction. To love is to risk pain for greater happiness. But if the happiness doesn't come or is fleeting, that doesn't mean the love never took place. Love is not happiness, just the potential for happiness. The scenarios that play out in films like these are ripe, caught at their most potent but raw and exposed. When I think of how powerful these types of love stories can be, I always think of an underappreciated Portuguese film from 2012 called Tabu. Spoilers to follow. Tabu is a story about a lot of things. Faith, compassion, duty, colonialism. But each theme is connected by love and its consequences. Some immediate and others far-reaching. It's about the happenstance of passion, the fever of longing, and the animal magnetism that feels just like fate. Filmed in a slick monochrome that seems stylized in the opening chapters of the film, but appropriately sumptuous once the flashback occur, Tabu is about the love between Aurora, a spoilt housewife living in the then Portuguese colony of Mozambique, and an itinerant Lothario named Gianluca, who, up to that point, has lived a life of consequence-free adventure. The two meet and almost immediately begin an impassioned affair, taking greater and greater risks to be together without being caught by Aurora's husband or Gianluca's close friend Mario. Their love is without hope. Aurora is already pregnant with her husband's child, and although it is never stated, neither party ever considers eloping. Instead, they commit to the shadows, even as it slowly eats them both from the inside. When it becomes unbearable, Gianluca leaves to take up a residency with his band. But the absence is even more painful than the secrecy, and when he comes back, they're quick to continue their relationship. With Aurora in an advanced state of pregnancy, they decide to spend one last night together out in the bush. But when they are discovered by Mario and a fight breaks out, Aurora shoots him before immediately going into labor. The story ends with the birth of Aurora's child and Gianluca leaving the country, never to return. There's a lot to break apart in Tabu, but a really striking feature for me has always been my feelings towards the central characters. Aurora is brattish, spoilt and untitled. Gianluca is arrogant and careless, happy to lie and put his friend in harm's way. Neither of them care about the politics of the time and the fact that the natives live in poverty to serve them, yet I'm incredibly drawn to the two of them and their plight. Without changing their personalities at all, the love they have for each other makes them noble. In love, we recognize a truth that we don't need to agree with, but we can't deny. Gianluca and Aurora find something in each other that apart they were lacking. Their actions are selfish, and yet I prefer a world where they were together even for the briefest time. What Tabu attempts to show us is that love, at least in its initial passion, is a type of clear-sighted madness. But what it also wants to show us is that love can become a ghost. There are two other parts of the film that I omitted in the earlier synopsis. The first is a prologue that plays out in the opening credits. It is the story of a Portuguese explorer. It's not stated, but heavily implied, that he's treading the same ground that Aurora and Gianluca will later use as a setting for their love affair. The story of the prologue is that this man is using adventure to escape a broken heart after the death of his wife. However, he's haunted by her ghost and chooses to die by a dramatic suicide rather than continue to live with a broken heart. The metaphor is barely subtext, but it's incredibly illustrative. The man is haunted because he loved his wife. His struggle after her death is a direct symptom of loving her. This is crucial for the other part of the story, which is about the last days of Aurora, now a petulant old woman living in Lisbon. The story is told from the perspective of Pilar, who knows Aurora only as a scared old woman who occasionally spouts casual racism and gibberish about her time living in Africa. Several times she mentions a Mr. Ventura, the second name of Gianluca. This in itself is important. Aurora has clearly spent a lifetime trying to downplay her younger love affair, and yet he is still on her mind. There are several scenes in the film that connect the past to the present. We see people decades apart crying to the same song, lovers lying just to be together. However, in Aurora's case, time is collapsing in on itself. An event that happened over the course of 9 months is still prevalent in her mind some 50 years later. Aurora never actually says anything explicit about the relationship, but on her deathbed she calls for Gianluca. Unfortunately, he is found too late. The love of Gianluca and Aurora is not a clean one. It's not moral, it's not selfless or benign. In fact, I would go as far as to say it shouldn't be emulated. People deserve better than to be cheated on. Aurora's husband is never presented as a bad person. And yet, there is something pure and unbridled about her love for Gianluca, which makes it more engaging and infinitely more human than any other love story I've seen on screen. Love hurts, sometimes, but that's what makes it love.